So today, week actually, we started with the early history of the United States of America. And when we say early history, we mean from the time or moment Christopher Columbus discovered the New World. At the time, it wasn't called the United States of America as we know it today. It was rather the New World because they didn't really know what part of the world they were in. So they lost their way, or they got lost on their way to India, and they accidentally settled in the New World, in particularly the eastern food of the United States as we know it today. And then from the 15th, later on, 16th, the 17th centuries, immigration to the New World was slow. There were immigrants, but immigration was slow, and slow in the sense that immigrants came in small numbers and were scattered. And we probably used this word for those who had today with me yesterday, or maybe last week.
Yes.
Yes, scattered, and I've typed the word for you in the chat section. So by scattered, we mean dispersed all over the country. So we had immigrants coming from Spain. So basically, the main countries where immigrants came from during the 16th, 17th until 19th, well, let's say mid 19th century, they basically came from England, Spain. So here I'm writing the countries: England, Spain, Holland, what else? Ireland, of course, well, England, Ireland, Germany, Germany. So they basically came from these countries. Later on, of course, they came from other countries, including Italy, including some other Eastern countries, etc. But we're going to, among all of these groups of immigrants, we're going to focus on one particular group, which is the group of Pilgrim Fathers. And Pilgrim Fathers, separate this, don't, no, just a second, I'm typing it, separate this, or Puritans, yes. So the, let's say, expressions or terms, Pilgrim Fathers, Separatists, or Puritans, they all refer to the same group of immigrants. Are you following?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, good. Yeah, they all refer to the same group of immigrants, and these were a group of immigrants who came from England in 16. So they reached the New World, not England. Let me just correct here. England in 1620, and they settled. So here I'll write. You need to take notes. Settled in the northeast of the country, or the northeastern section of the country, and they established what we call the 13 colonies. So now, why do we focus on the Pilgrim Fathers, or these Puritans, this particular group? Because it was this particular group who would shape the United States as we know it today. They were so influential. You know the word influential?
Yes.
Yes, that is, they had influence. So they were so influential, they were so organized, they were so powerful that they, among all other groups of the country, they had a powerful impact on the what would be called the future generations of Americans. They influenced the American political system. They influenced the economic system. They influenced religion. They influenced society. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay, let me carry on. Now we will need the notes that I, sorry, that I posted last week, Early America. Now, if you can go back to the document, otherwise I will share it here. Just a second. Where is it? Here, here, and it should be this. So, can you see Early America on your it's
Yes.
Can you see Early America? Yes, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, good. Early America, we have already read the first, I will read it very quickly. So the Pilgrim Fathers were a group of separatists who came to the New World in 1620. Now, why do we call this group separatists? In the word separatist, you have separate, you have separation, you have to separate. Yes or no? And
Yes.
we call them, yes, separatists actually, because this group of people separated itself from the Anglican Church of England. We will see this. Listen, let me say this. Today we're going to see many new, probably complex concepts and ideas. Don't be scared and don't worry about that. We will keep repeating these same ideas until you understand them very well. And if you have questions, you can ask them during classes, TD classes, okay? So today we're going to introduce the main events, dates, and concepts that you need to keep in mind. The first one is Pilgrim Fathers and the 13 colonies. So I repeat, separatists, they were called separatists, yes, so your friend Nasreen said, because they refused the political and religious, let's say, situation, not state, in England. Yes, so they separated themselves. Why were they called Puritans? Puritans. What do you have in the word Puritans?
Purify.
You have pure, purify. The verb is to purify, and the adjective is pure. Yes, to purify.
Yeah.
So Puritans, because they wanted, now what was the problem between this group of separatists and the Church of England? The problem was that
Religious problems.
religious problems. But what kind of religious problems?
They were
The difference,
executed
the
by the
difference
king.
between the religions.
And they criticized the Anglican Church of being corrupted. You know, corruption.
Yes.
Yes, they criticized and they claimed that the Anglican Church, the Anglican, I will write it here. Can you see my typing?
Yes.
Yes, church, sorry. So the Anglican Church, they criticized the Anglican Church for being too corrupted. Too much money was spent on the Anglican Church, basically for decoration and for ornament reasons. Whereas there was poverty, there were diseases, and there were many socioeconomic problems in the country. Are you following?
Yes.
Yes, good. And this is why we call them Puritans. They wanted a more purified, if you want, version of religion. And of course, this was not accepted. Remember, we are talking about 1620. I mean, before 1620, which means 17th century. It was not accepted by the church at the time. This is why they were harassed, and they were even sentenced to jail and death, etc. So they escaped. Okay? Now back to the document. The Pilgrim Fathers, we said, were a group of separatists who came to the New World in 1620 looking for religious freedom. So the reason, number one, why the Pilgrim Fathers left their country of origin and went to the New World was religious freedom. They wanted to worship in their own way. They first settled in Plymouth, so we saw these things, Massachusetts, and then they founded the 13 original colonies. So they started to expand. You know, you will see in your today classes that they started with 102 members. When they reached the New World, they were just 102 people. And then, of course, there was intermarriage, you know, families settling down. Their numbers started to increase. And when the numbers increase, then you need to look for new pieces of land. And they started to expand until they established the 13 colonies, and you can see them on your maps. They left on board of the Mayflower ship, and before settling, they decided about their own government and society. They thus established and signed the Mayflower Compact. They organization is a very important characteristic of the Pilgrim Fathers. Now, religious freedom. Now we move to how they influenced politics. We will see that the American Constitution, when was the American Constitution written?
1776.
1776 independence, yes, 1787 particularly. 1776 is the date of the Declaration of Independence. So the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence of 1776 were both influenced by the Mayflower Compact. Compact, you know what it includes a set of rules, how to behave, what to do, what not to do, who will lead, etc. Now, religion, politics, I come back to the document. They also wanted freedom from Britain, so they declared war and got their independence in 1776. Of course, 1776, after more than one century of 1620. In 1776, we're not talking about the same people, but we are talking about their descendants. Are you familiar with the word descendants?
No.
Yes.
No. Yes. What's a descendant? What's a descendant? Sorry, Martaz, I couldn't hear you very well. Okay, offspring, yes. Maybe it's also a word that they wouldn't understand. So a descendant is the son, grandson, it's the future generations of the same family. Like you are the descendants of your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc. Okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is to say that the descendants or the future or the generations that came after the Pilgrim Fathers in 1620 led the country to independence. This is the idea. We will come back to this, don't worry. I come back to the document. After the establishment of the 13 colonies, immigrants were encouraged to immigrate to the New World for three main reasons. And I want you to remember this very, very, very well. Three main reasons pushed immigrants to immigrate or to come to the New World, or to settle, if you want. Religious freedom, religious, economic freedom, and new opportunities. Religious freedom to worship God, the way they wanted to. Economic, looking for lands, basically, money, and new opportunities, including what later on would be called the American dream. They prepared for the melting pot. Now, are you familiar with the melting pot idea? We'll come back to this also. The melting, yes. The melting pot is when, you know what to melt means?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so what
For
is to melt?
example, ice.
Yes.
Ice, to melt ice.
Yes, ice,
Butter.
well, it's not to melt ice, but when it's hot, ice melts.
Yes.
Yes, so
But it's like a mountain of ice, something
yes,
like that. A
exactly.
very big rock.
Yes, yes, okay. And then your friend said to mix. Yes, you need to remember that immigrants from all over the world came to the New World, to America. They spoke different languages. They had different religions, different backgrounds, different belonged to different social ranks, and they had to live together in the same country. So they established the melting pot. That is, they started to live together in the same society. This is what we mean by to mix, if you want, to melt in the same society. We will come back to the idea of melting pot. As I said, we are just introducing now. Slaves did not arrive to the New World until the 17th century, and they were brought from Africa. Of course, today we no longer use the word slaves. Okay, it's a pejorative word, but here we're talking about early history of America. So this, sorry, this is why we use the word slaves. And of course,
Slaves.
why were slaves brought to the New World?
To work, to
work,
build the new world.
The land.
yes,
To build.
work in big fields, and I'm writing the words, in plantations. And the two main plantations that existed in the New World at the time were basically cotton and tobacco. Donc, yes, so cotton and tobacco. Yes, so two main plantations, cotton and tobacco. And of course, the country was so big that they, so the country was so big that they needed workers and cheap hand labor, and those slaves brought all the way from Africa. And you know, I'm sure you've at least once in your life read or come across a film or a document which describes.
Yes, 20 years as a slave.
Exactly.
Yes.
Voila, yeah, it's a very good film. Now back to the document. So I was reading, yes. Now we will move to this Puritans and their beliefs. Now, beliefs, we can say is the noun from the word to believe, or we can also say values. You know that each society has its own values, its own, yes, if you want, its own principles.
Yes,
And
human freedom, something.
For instance, yes, exactly. Now again, I came to the same idea and say that why Pilgrim Fathers? Basically because Pilgrim Fathers influenced the United States. Now, today, what language do we speak in the United States? The most spoken language? English. Yes, immigrants came from all over the world, from Spain, Spanish, from Italy, Italian, from other countries, China, etc. Why do most Americans speak? Because of the influence, again, of the Puritans. Now, what is the most dominant religion in terms of number in the United States?
Protestant.
Yes, it's Christianity. I will write it here. Just a second. Christianity. And more particularly, as your friend, Protestants, Protestants, which make which are part of Christianity. So in Christianity, we have Catholics and Protestants. Why Protestants? These again are the descendants of the Pilgrim Fathers. Protestants or Puritans are part of Protestants. They both refer to the same religion now. Again, the influence of the Pilgrim Fathers. They increased in terms of, not increased, let's say they grew in terms of number and in terms of influence. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. Let me carry on. So back to the document, the Puritans and their beliefs. The Puritans wanted to purify the Anglican Church in England from the Catholics. And they also wanted to purify it from all the
corruption.
All the corruption that was taking place at the time. Thank you. Yes. Again, let me explain. The main religion is Christianity. And in Christianity, we have two main groups. We have Protestants and Catholics. Yes. And
we have two main what?
Sorry, what did you say?
Well, we have two main what you're saying about Puritan?
Can you repeat?
You were saying there were two main something about the Christianity.
Two main groups. Groups.
Oh, okay.
Okay, two main groups. Protestants. Protestants and Catholics. Listen, it's exactly the same problem that we have between Shia and Sunni. See, it's exactly the same. Okay, and the problem was that Puritans belonged to the Protestant section or group, and they wanted to purify. And at the time, in 1620, Catholics were more powerful than Protestants. So the Puritans wanted to purify the church from Catholics and from corruption. I'm reading from the document, back to the document. They criticized the Anglican Church and escaped to, of course, criticized for corruption, money, etc., and escaped to the New World to practice their religious beliefs. You remember, a few minutes earlier when we said that one of the main reasons was religious freedom, purity.
Yes.
Yes. D'ailleurs, and you will see this in today, the first thing that the Pilgrim Fathers did when they left the Mayflower ship, after
they built the church.
Exactly.
And the
after
school.
they signed the compact, was to build a church and a school later on. So they believed in the Old Testament. You know, we have the New and Old Testament. The Old Testament, the idea that the Jews were the elected or the chosen people, and that they had sort of a contract or covenant with God. And you know, for those who are following American politics or probably American elections in particular, I'm sure you've noticed the importance that religion and religious beliefs play in American politics.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm sure at least some of you have come across that video, which has gone viral, and which shows a woman doing preaching and doing some religious saying some religious prayers, etc., so that Donald Trump wins. I don't know if you've seen the video.
Not exactly, no.
Sorry, Nasruddin?
Not exactly, no. I didn't come
Okay,
to
but this is to say that religion is very important until today. Listen, you need to link between the present and the past. This is the key idea for this lesson or class. Past, present, past, present. Now, today, politicians, today, American people are very religious. I don't know if you know that. They believe in God. Like more than 70% of the American people go to church every Sunday and believe in the existence of God, etc. So religion until today still plays a very important role. Good. Back to the document. Therefore, in America today, we have the idea of Americans as God's chosen people and the US as a city built upon a hill. Now, most Americans today, and you can see this in American foreign policy, you know, when trying to spread democracy, trying to teach the world, trying to show to the world that they are the best, that they are a model to follow, etc. So this is what we mean by America. They believe that they are God's chosen people, that they are elected, that the idea of building a city upon a hill, we will see this in today. Hill, which is a small mountain, and you know when you're on the top of a mountain, so you can see everything underneath the mountain. So you have this position of controlling and having an eye on everything. Okay, can we carry on?
Yes.
Yes, good. Not Americans, Puritans also, so I'm reading from the document. The importance of education. So I said earlier that the first thing that they did was to establish a church and a school. Importance of religion and the importance of education, science, and progress. And they are one of the one of the reasons why education was important was to be able to read the Bible. Again, everything comes back to religion. You need to know how to read and write to read the Bible. And this is why the United States today is technologically advanced compared to many other countries in the world. One other belief, this is like a summary. We will see the details later on. One important belief also in that the Puritans had, and that still exists until today, is the importance of material wealth and success. And by material wealth, we mean private property, we mean lands, we mean houses, we mean free competition, accumulation of wealth. Now, economically speaking, what does accumulation of wealth and free competition remind you of?
Capitalism.
Capitalism. Yes, sir. Thank you. You know what capitalism means?
Yes.
Yes. What about the others? Yes. So
yes, of course.
yes, this is why today the United States is a capitalist country par excellence, as we say. These are the origins of the first seeds of capitalism. Again, Puritans. They believed that well, you know what gospel means? Gospel is a religious holy book. You have gospel, which is the religious gospel, which is the Bible, And you also have the gospel of wealth, as if it's a religious duty for the human being to accumulate wealth. And they even go to the extent of considering that if someone is wealthy and has succeeded, socially speaking, to climb the social ladder, it means that he is being blessed by God. If he or she is poor, it means that he is sort of cursed by God. You're familiar with the words, and I write it here, bless and curse.
Yes.
Yes, the opposite. Yes. So they even go to the extent of explaining this idea of accumulation of wealth in this way. If you are poor, it's your fault. So, donc, religion, economic side, and now politically speaking, and I'm reading from the notes. The politically speaking, democracy, which comes from demos, a government by the people, Greek origin, is the most important value. Democracy, you know that whether we like it or not, despite all the problems that we could have or we could talk about in the United States, and despite all the downfalls of the political system in the United States, it is one of the most democratic countries in the world. Now, where does this tradition of democracy come from? Again, Pilgrim Fathers. The Mayflower Compact is an illustration. The right now, what was the compact about? It included the right of representativeness, that is, you can choose who is going to lead this group of 102 people. You will be involved as a citizen in the making of laws. We will govern ourselves, etc. So the first seeds, the first roots of democracy go back to the Pilgrim Fathers. Now, 1620, we are in 2020 or 2020. 4 centuries ago, 4 centuries ago, and now 4 centuries later, the impact of the Pilgrim Fathers, of the Puritans, is still present in the United States today. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
How so? I was explaining, politically speaking, democracy, it goes back to the compact, the Mayflower Compact. Economically speaking, capitalism, the first roots, we were talking about that. In terms of religion, you know that Christianity, Protestants represent the biggest number of inhabitants or people in the United States. In terms of values, we will see the main values: freedom. Last week we saw mobility, etc., are the main characteristics of the American people, and they go back to the Pilgrim Fathers. It was the Pilgrim Fathers. It was this group of Puritans who instaured the main principles, socio-economic, political principles of the country as we know it today. Yes, and of course, these are very general ideas. We will bit by bit or slowly try and answer. So all of this class is about how the group of Puritans or Pilgrim Fathers influenced the United States today, as we know it today, in different ways. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Back to the notes, just to finish with these notes. You know, there is always, life is never this pink, you know, life is never it's not a question of good or bad or black and white. You need to put into question everything you read, everything you hear, everything you see even. So now we have this positive side of the Puritans, the United States, etc. It's good, it's a democracy, it's so and that. However, now what's the dark side of history, of American history? And I'm reading from the notes again. Although Puritans were looking for freedom, they were intolerant. They showed signs of intolerance. And you would ask, how? Puritans did not, that they brought slaves to the New World. Yes or no?
Yes.
And those slaves, thrived from their freedoms. So they did not allow other people to be free. They considered that only white Anglo-Saxon people could be free and could be technologically advanced and could be good, decent citizens. They also denied freedom to Catholics. Even Catholics were in the United States just because they were Catholic. Again, they had so many problems with Native Americans, the original people. They took their lands, they put them on reservations, and they even tried to Christianize them, that is, to teach them Christianity by force. Again, question mark. Are Puritans as good as we picture them to be? Question mark. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, good. Now, if you have any questions, then you keep them, as I was saying, for your today. I want, before we finish, to move to another document. Let me just see, where is it? Yeah, here it is, which is document 3. Yes, good. Donc, I will here. I will share another document with you right now. And in this document, we're going to talk about the American Constitution. Why the American Constitution? You need to understand the main principles of the American political system. We will come back into more details with more details later on. Can you see the document? It starts
Yes.
with the American founding values, freedom, etc. Okay. The document, as I said, starts with look here, the American founding values. I'm going to skip that, probably come back to it next week. It talks about freedom, economic, and when we say freedom, I told you we talk about 3 different, if you want, types of freedom. So we have economic, religious, and political freedom. Today, we're going to talk about the role that the 13 colonies played in the political freedom of the country. Can you see it in the document?
Yes.
Yes, you have the American founding value. You just go a little bit further down. Can you see it? What about the others? Yes, good.
Yeah.
Yes. So the role that the 13 colonies played in the political freedom of the country. Now, when we say the 13 colonies, again, we refer back to the Pilgrim Fathers, their descendants, etc. Now, there are three main documents in the history of the United States. And you have 1, 2, 3. Number 1, the Declaration of Independence. Number 2, the Constitution. And number 3, the Bill of Rights. And here, the Declaration of Independence, I will add the date 1776. Now, these three documents shaped, or sorry, I would say have shaped the American political system. Now, what do you think we talk about? Now, when we say Declaration of Independence, it means that the country is colonized. Or if we're talking about the US, back to the 18th century, was colonized. Now, was the United States colonized?
No.
No. So why? So when we say Declaration of Independence, what do we mean by the Declaration of Independence? Now, let me answer. Yes.
From England,
Yes, the United States was considered as a British. So I'll write it here: British colony. We talk about the U.S. after 1776, after the Declaration of Independence. Before 1776, we talk about a colony. The United States was not colonized in the way that we know what colonization is. It was considered as a British colony under British protection. You remember about, I don't know if you have an idea about this or not, but we are talking about the 18th century. And when 1776, it's the 18th century. And back to the 17th, 18th, 19th century, Britain and the British Empire was the most powerful empire in the world. And
yes,
you need to know, yes, that 1/4, can you imagine 1/4, that is 25% of the world belonged to the British colony, to the British Empire. Yes. It was so powerful that it even put a hand on the New World and considered it as a British colony. And of course, British colony, what does this mean? It means that you will have my protection, but at the same time, you need to
give something.
Pay taxes. Yes. Obey, but especially pay taxes. Yes. So Americans, I mean, as British citizens, if you want, paid taxes for a long time. And in the 1770s, the British Empire decided to raise, you know what to raise, to increase taxes in the New World. And at that moment, the colonists, American colonists said, no, we are not going to pay taxes anymore. We do not live in Britain. Why we do not get the same services as British citizens? Why should we pay taxes? And they started to revolt, you know, the verb to revolt, against the British Empire. They started a revolution. Exactly. They started a revolution against the British Empire. And in 1776, they declared their independence from the British Empire, which, I remind you, back in 1776, was considered as a very dangerous and challenging action. Yes, exactly. Exactly, Amani. No taxation, not until, without. No taxation without representation. If we are not represented in the British Parliament, why should we pay taxes? Are you following?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I come back to the document, to the notes. Now, the Declaration of Independence, the preamble reads as follows. Preamble means the introduction. The introduction. And we will see this in today. It reads as follows. And I advise you to learn the preamble. It's not long, but it's good. It sums up the American political system. We, the people, we, the American people, hold these truths to be self-evident that is taken for granted. That all men are created equal.
Equal.
Yes. That they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable. No one can take those rights from you because they are God-given rights. That among are the most important ones: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Not many, but a group of what we call representatives drafted or wrote the Declaration of Independence. You have some names. The most famous ones are John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, Livingstone, and Thomas Jefferson. So these were the most important figures who contributed to the drafting of the Declaration of Independence. And this document could be considered as the philosophical foundation of American freedom. It stressed two main themes. The first one, the individual rights, and the second one, the right to revolution. And this document influenced revolutions in other countries of the world. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The next document is the Constitution of the United States of America. And the Constitution, which was written in 1787, Dustur, described the main characteristics of the American political system, and at the same time decided for individual freedoms. Okay, let me read. Now, this is the introduction of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, descendants, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. To this Constitution, the Constitution was basically a document about the political system, American political system. I don't know if you're familiar with the three branches, executive, judicial, and legislative branches. Yes. To this document were added amendments. By amendments, we mean changes, تنقيح دستور. And the first 10 amendments were called the Bill of Rights. Rights of whom? Rights of citizens, of Americans. And these are the Bill of Rights as a document is supposed to guarantee the human rights like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to fair trial, etc. Listen, don't get confused if you think that we've seen so much so far. It's not a problem. I just wanted to introduce the main concepts and ideas, and every time we're going to come back to the Pilgrim Fathers, the American Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, Puritan values, etc. So you will have enough time to understand everything. Okay?
No, yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you have questions, yes, please keep them for your TD classes. I do not have the exact information if next week is going to be an online class or face-to-face class, donc cours présentiel. The administration will let you know, just as I will, they will let me know too. If it's going to be a face-to-face class, it's fine. If it's going to be an online class, I will post the document on Google Classroom and will let you know, what to do if you ever have any tasks to do, okay?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so stay safe and have a good day. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Miss. You too.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And good to have you, Nasruddin, here.
Thanks a lot, Miss.
Okay, so